To be the instructions for how to make a clock on a CNC router. We have 3 CNC routers at this point in class that we can use. We've got to know which one of those CNC routers that we're going to use, not before we start, but it's a lot easier if we know before we start. So you can do this first step at any point in the project, but I think it's easier to start now. And whatever class you're in, whether you're in Advanced Woods, CNC class, or Woods 1, just looking for some extra credit, there's going to be a link called CNC Post Processors somewhere on your front page of Canvas. Also in that CNC Post Processors link, there's going to be links to a few other common CNC files that we use a lot. Like right now, the Trojan head is there, and I think it's a little bit outside your window. There we go. You can see the Trojan head file is right there. I am going to do this on the Laguna IQ HHC.pp. That stands for post processor. So I'm going to make sure that I got that selected. So I'm going to download, hit the download button here, and you'll see this pop up on your screen. Now I need to open up Vcarve Pro, and it's this logo right down here. This one, it looks like a blue triangle, and I've got a few windows open. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to say Vcarve Pro 10.5. It's on your desktop as well. It's also on your programs list. So I've got Vcarve open, and I'm just going to say create a new file. All that I got to do is get to this window here. I'm going to come up here and say File, Open Application Data Folder. And I need to get to my post P. In here, mine has already been pasted in here. If yours has not been pasted in here, what you got to do is come down to the Windows Explorer, File Explorer, and I'm just going to go to my downloads where that thing got downloaded. I'm going to say copy. I can close this, and then I'm just going to paste it right in here. So mine's already there, so I'm just going to say skip this. Yours will show up here now, but it's not going to instantly show up when we want to go use that post processor. What we actually have to do is restart Vcarve. So before you've started drawing anything, close this out and then start it over again. So to start it over, I'll come all the way down here. I'll right click on mine and say Vcarve 10.5. And then you can go to create a new file, and then just go up there and double check open application data folder and make sure. This may only affect this is only the first time that you use it. So if you're using this a few years from now, these should all be in there because somebody else has probably already done it for you. So I've got my Laguna IQ.HHC.pd is in there, so I will be able, when I'm all done, to tell it where to output this file to. Now, the next thing that you've got to do is you've got to decide how big your clock face is going to be. The example that's right above the door, as we leave the shop, right there, that is 22 inches. So that's a pretty big clock, and we've got to buy pretty big pans for it. So double check what we have in stock. Maybe I don't have any in stock, and you just have to go to Amazon and order it anyhow, and that's okay if that's the case. So we got to figure out how big we want the diameter of our clock to be before we get too far into our drawing. I'm going to do this for a 20-inch clock. So under job setup, I am going to make a 20 by 20, and I'm going to use half-inch thick Baltic birch plywood. Again, this is really up to you and what you find. So if you want to glue up some solid wood and make a solid wood clock, chances are your thickness is going to be closer to 3/4 of an inch. You just have to have that figured out before you start, and we can adjust it later. Now, in almost all the other CNC work that we've done, we've wanted to start from the machine bed. But today, we're going to start from the material surface. This means we're going to zero the CNC router right in the center of our project, and it's going to be referenced off the surface of our material. So my XY datum position is centered, and I'm on material surface, and I hit OK. So now that I'm on here, I need to get my shape set up for what I want my shape of my clock to be. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to do a circular clock, and I want to do a diameter of 20 inches. Yours could be 12, yours could be 8. They make really, really small clock mechanisms that are down to just a few inches. So I made my circle, that's 20 inches in diameter, And then I'm going to use the Move Selector tool to slide this over to get this centered. Now you have these dots on here. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard as well. I want to get that dot right in the center of my square, because chances are you're going to be cutting out of a square piece of material. So then you got to decide what you want this to look like. And I've pulled up a few other options. So this is the clock that sits above the doors as you exit and come into the school, into the wood shop. You can see we decided to go with the more traditional, kind of a big block letter 1 through 12 on the clock face. But we can also go simpler. So if I was a John Deere, I wanted a John Deere clock, I'll show you where to find these logos here in a minute too. I could go Roman numerals, and I could just do 4 of them. It's really up to you. Or like this one right here, you could choose to do something silly like that. And I'm going to show you how to write text, how to write the numbers in there. Then I'll show you how to toolpath it. And whatever design you come up with is really up to you. If you want to come up with a logo, the best place to come up with a logo is this place called brandsoftheworld.com. So Brands of the World, it got a little bit more difficult here because the school has decided to block the thumbnail images. So if you want to go to brandsoftheworld.com, go ahead and do that, but use your phone to do it so you can see what these logos actually are. I know there's one from the Minnesota Twins that I really like, and I know that it's the first one here. So in the past, we'd be able to see a thumbnail of what logo was there. But now we're going to have to kind of risk it. So I'm going to click here. I want to make sure that my vector format is in EPS or AI. Hit I agree and then download. And this now downloaded it to my computer. So I'm starting blank. Oops, that's not the right one. That's not the right one either. I got too many windows open here. So I want to get that Twins logo in here. Now I'm going to come up here and say import vectors. I'm going to go to downloads and find Minnesota Twins. And there it is. It's going to pop it in to my drawing. Now, it is not the size that I want it to be, nor is it in the location that I want it to be. I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse. And if you've got a really detailed drawing, you're going to have trouble getting it to cut out on the CNC router. Because think about that bit on the CNC router has a diameter, and we're going to use the 1/4 inch diameter bit for this. So if you've got lines that are any closer than a 1/4 inch together, the router is not going to cut them out. I'm going to do a little editing here. So if I click on a line and it turns pink, I can edit that line. If you click on a line and all of it turns pink, you right click on it and say ungroup object. Now my object's already been ungrouped, so I don't have to do it. But ungroup object back to original layer if you can't edit line by line. And I'm going to simplify this logo a little bit. I want to get rid of that square, and I also want to get rid of that extra outline in the T, because we don't want to cut that. So my router bit is going to cut inside of that line. So I'm going to scroll back out with the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I want to make that TC a lot bigger. And you can obviously modify this throughout the whole process. So if you want to have this change in size, you can feel free to have it change in size.